Hope you're doing good. Micah back with another video. Back here to discuss the iPad Pro and do we need it? I think this is going to be a series I run this whole week. Maybe as we get more devices from different companies, we kind of dive deep into their format in terms of how they release their hardware. And we just simply ask a question, do we need it? And it doesn't necessarily mean I'm talking about the model in hand, because that is a model I can actually use as a reference. But in general, do we need so many pieces of hardware from companies that try to serve us? And in this case, we're talking about Apple and the iPad series. We know that Apple does have a new refresh coming with the iPad Air and the iPad Pro line. This is the iPad Pro M2 model, 12.9 inch, in all of its goodness and glory. And we're simply asking the question, do we need it? And I think we definitely need an iPad Pro in the lineup. I use the iPad Pro for work, but I definitely think Apple can take a reflective seat, so to say, and look at the iPads, the amount of iPads that they have, and really crunch down the type of iPads that they need. So that's what we're going to be getting into this video. So if you guys looking forward to this, if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys ignite the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. It's all free. That way you miss my videos, so you and I can sit back, check, see what's cracking. Now let's get into the video. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the sizes. And I think that having two sizes for the iPad Pro is actually fine. But what I do think they need to do is increase the size of both iPad Pros. So we should have a 12-inch and a 14-inch iPad Pro lineup instead of an 11 and 13. I think that's good because the whole point of opting for the iPad over the MacBook is the versatility, the mobility, the detachment of the keyboard, and having that experience to take this and be more nimble with it on the go or even around your house, as opposed to carrying around a laptop, no matter the size of that laptop. And I think that having a 12-inch and a 14-inch for the iPad Pro makes a lot more sense than the current 11 and 13-inch that we will be seeing in the time to come whenever they decide to finally release that upon us. What's the other thing I think about when it comes to the iPad Pros? Unleash more power in the iPad Pros. I think just having the base M chip is sufficient, but I think they could go further and give us the Pro chips in the iPad Pros, because that will give it a differentiator between the iPads, and it will give us a differentiation between the MacBooks and the iPads. The MacBooks has up to 3 different chips as of right now. The M3, M3 Pro, and M3 Max. We know with the Mac Studio, Mac Mini, and whatnot, those can even scale up to an Ultra chip, but I think there's only 1 or 2 Ultra chips as of right now, the M1 Ultra and potentially the M2 Ultra, which means we could see an M3 Ultra chip at some point. But that's a whole different conversation. But I think having the actual M Pro chip in the iPad Pros makes more sense than the base chip, and you'll see why in a second. Because now, upon moving from the iPad Pros to the iPad Air line, do we need the iPad Air? And I think, yes, we do need the iPad Air. And I think it's actually a good idea for them to have 2 different sizes for the iPad Air, the 10.9 inch and the 12.9 inch. I think that's perfect for the iPad Air. But I also think that the base M chip should be in the iPad Air. That should make the difference between the iPad Air and the iPad Pro. The iPad Pro has the Pro level chip and the Air has the base level chip. That makes way more sense, because now you're definitely differentiating again the use cases for the iPad Air versus the iPad Pro, much like Apple does with the MacBook Air with the MacBook Pro. The MacBook Pro has 3 different chips available. The Air only has 1, which is the base chip. I think that makes way more sense for the iPads than what we currently have going on for the iPad Air and iPad Pro lineups. It adds a new layer of refreshment to the iPads, but also now distinguishes the use case a whole lot better. So do we need the iPad Air? Yes. The 10.9 inch and the 12.9 inch. Do we need the iPad Pro? Yes. A 12 inch and a 14 inch for the iPad Pros. Now, what's the next iPad that we need? We need an iPad mini, and it needs to stay right at that beautiful 8-inch display size, or screen, size in total. 8.3 inches is what it's at right now. Upgrade the display to OLED, of course, and that will provide a, again, specific use case for the iPad mini. You may not need that much iPad, and that's why you go for the iPad Air. But if you wanted something even smaller that you just wanted to use for note taking, maybe a nice little media device, if you wanted to use it just to go on the go and just have something small with you that's a little bit bigger than your phone, the iPad mini is perfect. And only having one size, which again stays in that 8.3 to 8.7 inches. I know rumor has it that it might increase to 8.7, which is fairly fine for the iPad mini. And really all that means is they're just going to get rid of that bezel most likely. It'll probably keep its size relatively the same, just less bezel for the display. And I think the iPad mini is perfect to go alongside the iPad Air and the iPad Pro. What's the next iPad we need? I think we just need a standard iPad that's all screen, no touch ID, face ID, in landscape mode, much along the lines with the rest of the iPads we just talked about. And that standard iPad is something that can be supplied to stores, to schools, educational purposes, and for kids. I think the iPad mini and or a standard iPad that's roughly 9 to 10 inches in size, I think that's the perfect iPad. If you didn't need an Air, if you didn't need a Pro, even though I think the Air is more or less the iPad you get on to just do regular things. But if you wanted to have a specific model for like schools, for stores, for display use cases, and to carry around for consumer needs in business format, I think a standard iPad makes sense from that perspective. So that iPad may be a little bit more limited to purchase because it is for that purpose as opposed for widespread use like the mini, the Air, and the Pro. So that gives us a total of 4 iPads, primarily three that are for widespread purchase: the iPad mini, the iPad Air, and the iPad Pro. And then you have a standard iPad that are for more specific use cases outside of consumer use. I think that's actually perfect because now that gets rid of confusion when it comes to iPads. Each one has a specific purpose, and now you know how to scrutinize your decision when it comes to purchasing your iPad. And that's based off of the chip, the size, and what is available. And I think these things, a lot of times people might think that this limits consumer choice, but really it makes us make choices a lot better and to really think about what device you want to purchase before buying it, because we also know Apple comes with a relatively hefty price tag. And so being able to make sense of what we want to purchase and why we want to purchase it, I think makes a whole lot more sense than what we currently do in the landscape of things. And that's why it's kind of interesting seeing Apple go a lot further when it comes to releasing more and more devices. I think that's actually a bad idea because now consumers are, if not confused, they don't like the fact that there's probably a ton of devices to choose from, especially when your devices are basically the same, right? That's a plus and a minus. Your devices are more or less the same, but we don't need so many different SKUs with just subtle differences. We need standardization from that perspective. And I think that would work for the iPads. 4 iPads, but really 3 main iPads available for purchase: the iPad mini, the iPad Air in 2 sizes, 10.9 inch and 12.9 inch, and the iPad Pro in 2 sizes, a 12 inch and a 14 inch. I think that's all we need for the iPads, and that will help them kind of emulate the MacBook lineup for Apple, and it makes people know exactly what they need to purchase and why they're purchasing it. And that iPad Pro has the Pro level chip, while the Air has the base level chip. Again, perfect separation of use case per device in Apple's ecosystem. But let me know down in the comment section below, What do you guys think? Do we need the iPad Pro? Do we need the iPad Air? Do we need the iPad Mini? Do we need a standard iPad? Or do you like that we have all these iPads out in the wild? Or do you think Apple should start honing it in a little bit? The comment section is open for discussion. But again, as always, if you guys haven't already, make sure to like the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. It's all free. That way, that's our video. So you and I can sit back, chillax, and see what's cracking. Trey and Micah signing out. And until the next video, that beautiful boy. Wait for it.